This video will show you a little bit about our recent visit to the Mob Museum in downtown Las Vegas. The Mob Museum is officially known as the National Museum of Organized Crime and Law Enforcement. We really enjoyed our visit. It was fascinating. You could spend an entire day in here reviewing the videos, looking at the photos and the evidence and all of that. There are 4 floors of things that you can look at, and also some interactive experiences that you could pay extra to participate in. We did not do that. We just did the general admission, and that alone was enough to really leave us greatly impressed. And like I say, you could spend an entire day in here learning about organized crime in America. Organized crime came to prominence in America during the Prohibition years.
Now being destroyed under court order. So do it, boy.
In 1920, the American government went to war with alcohol. Most people just moved their drinking underground.
This is where the museum starts, on the first floor that you go to. Lots of exhibits about Prohibition and how organized crime rose in America during that time, and it was brought about in part by many crooked cops who sometimes helped the mobsters do their dirty work. The museum displays give a lot of attention to the psychology of people who get involved in organized crime. Like this one talks about what they do as a kid, what they do when they get older, and then when the organized crime person becomes an adult, what are some of the traits and behaviors they have. Things like dressing flashy and having a mistress and being patriotic, vengeful, seeking revenge, ruthless, could succeed at anything but never does. It's almost like we know a public figure who kind of fits this description. But anyway, it's very interesting, the psychological aspects that the museum displays bring out. The first floor really gives you a good background on the mob in America and how the challenges of living in the United States in the 20s and 30s really fostered the development of criminals who got together and organized. They were corrupt. They infiltrated legitimate businesses. There are specific criminal events and activities and cases that the museum gets into in great detail in the exhibits. As I said, you could spend an entire day in here reading all the information and literally connecting the dots to see how organized crime spread across the country and was present in pretty much every major American city. There's lots of displays of guns like this Tommy gun, and lots of profiles of different members of organized crime over the years and how they made their fame and fortune in this illegal business. One of the most impressive displays in the museum is the St. Valentine's Day Massacre wall. This is the actual wall that was in the garage in Chicago in 1929 when a whole bunch of mobsters were gunned down in that incident. The wall there's more than 400 bricks in the wall. The museum acquired the wall from a collector and then rebuilt the wall in exactly the way it was in the garage. The bullet holes are still in it. They're marked in red, and you get to see a little movie that describes the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, and you get to look at the wall, and then you get to learn about the mobsters who were gunned down in that garage in Chicago. Not only do you learn about them by reading their bios and seeing their pictures, you get to see the bullets that were involved. There's lots of bullets on display that were removed during the autopsies, and indeed, there are autopsy documents there. And then there are guns there. And so the museum in this case and in all the others, it really goes deep to show you not only what happened, but why it happened and how you can follow the money, as this display shows. This is from a display that talks about the following of the money involved in the JFK assassination. It talks about Lee Harvey Oswald. It talks about Jack Ruby. It gives you lots of information you probably didn't know very much about. There are other displays about the mob during the time of war. There are lots of exhibits about the mob and Hollywood, and also little interesting things like this exhibit that talks about how mobsters were sending drugs from Italy to America in tomato cans that were shipped directly to pizza parlors. There's a lot of information about the Kefauver hearings, where Senator Kefauver from Tennessee and the other members of the Senate panel put on these hearings to explore the impact of organized crime in America. The hearings were taken around the country to different locations. They were televised live on television, and the museum brings out the fact that this was probably the first opportunity many Americans had to really understand how significant organized crime was in our country and how it had influenced every aspect of our lives. Of course, the museum is in Las Vegas, so you get to see a lot about organized crime's influence in Las Vegas and how over the years the mobsters really ran this town and ran the casinos, and how they skimmed a whole lot of money off of the profits of the casinos, and how they were involved in the building of new casinos and the expansion of their empire here. You get to go into a little room where it shows you very visually how the skim at the Flamingo worked, for example, and how millions of dollars left the Flamingo in suitcases and briefcases and even in paper bags that were taken out by mobsters. That money then was sent off to different parts of the country to finance the mobsters' activities in other places. It's really interesting to look in this room and read the displays and visually see what a couple $1 million looks like, and imagine that this money was taken out of casinos. There's an exhibit about Howard Hughes, and how Howard Hughes decided that he was going to stay here in Las Vegas and he was going to buy a hotel to live in. There are several interactive exhibits that you can pay extra to be involved in. The Crime Lab is one of those. We did not do that, and I don't feel, in retrospect, I don't feel we really needed to, because the general admission to the museum itself is so interesting. There's so many things to look at in the museum itself that I don't feel like we missed anything by not doing the interactive exhibits. You do get to see an electric chair. You do get to see guns used in prison executions. You do get to learn at the end of the museum about organized crime today, and when you really start reading it, it's really kind of scary when you think about the many ways that organized crime figures are still operating in our society today. The Mob Museum gives you a lot to think about, and that's what a good museum should do. It should show you things that you didn't realize were significant in society, and it should show you how the history of our society has given us the outcomes that we see all around us today. So if you go to Las Vegas, you might want to put this on your to-do list. I think you'd really enjoy it.